Is it awkward to be in the room with a naked person? What materials should you bring? And should you draw their junk or pretend it's not there? If you're new to life drawing, watch this video before your first session so you can show up with confidence. If you want to go to life drawing but you've never gone and you're a little nervous, I have 5 tips for you today. Even if you're used to drawing at home or from photos, there's always something a little bit different about going to a life drawing session. Sometimes it's just the different location, the lighting isn't the same, you don't have an easel, you don't know where to put your materials. I find I run into this even after hosting my own life drawing session for about 15 years. Whenever I go to a new location, I just kind of have all this confusion around what I am even doing. So it takes a while to settle in. Because of this, I think, your first session is going to be a little weird. You're not going to exactly know what you're doing. You're not going to feel comfortable. So commit to, I recommend, at least 8 to 12 sessions in order to give yourself an idea of how it's working for you. So just let those first couple of meetings be to kind of get comfortable and get used to things. You're probably going to start to see some improvement and you're going to start to feel more of a little bit of a routine once you get somewhere between 4 and 6 sessions. So by 8 to 12, you're going to start seeing some success and know where you want to head with that project of going to life drawing. Now, that said, if you want some practice before or in between life drawing sessions, there are tons of resources online for you. One of which is my Patreon, which you can find at patreon.com/School of Realist Art. And I have tons of photos there that you can study from. And I even have life drawing videos where the model pose changes according to a timer. So it is the next best thing to being at a live session. Check that out if you're interested in looking for extra practice. There is so much mental energy just that goes into deciding which thing that you're going to pick up to draw with, where you're going to put your drawing supplies in between. Are you holding your sketchbook in your lap on a drawing board? Are you using a drawing horse or an easel? So in order to simplify all of that so that you can focus on observing and drawing, try to just keep it really simple at first. I know some people do a great job showing up to these life drawing sessions with all kinds of paints and colors and mixed media, but when you're getting started, try and just keep it to a couple of items to reduce all that extra thought. So start simple and keep it consistent. Personally, I like to use a pad of gray paper, and then I have black and white charcoal so that I can really quickly add light and add shadow to things. Mostly I stick with the pencils. Sometimes I use a stick of charcoal too, but I find just keeping it that simple, a few pencils, a pencil sharpener, an eraser, and a kind of medium-sized sketch pad, nothing that's crazy to haul around, not the big 18 by 24 newsprint pads that people like a lot. I have something kind of in the middle, like a 12 by 16 or a 9 by 12, so that it's really easy to carry around and I don't have to think too hard about how I'm holding this thing up while I'm drawing. It's a really easy kit to take along places, and the amount of pencils and supplies are small enough that if I need to, I can just put it right in my lap. If you're used to using some other kind of material like pastels or watercolor, go ahead and use those materials, but again, try and simplify it. Like maybe if you use markers, have a dark marker, a medium marker, and a light marker, and just stick to that for a while you're getting used to the whole situation of drawing the figure from life. Or with watercolor, you might just choose a few colors to bring or a very limited palette so that you're not spending a lot of time setting things up and guessing which colors you want to use. Now, tip number 3, once you get there, you have your materials, you're ready to draw, just try to relax. It's really not as awkward as you think. For most people, it is pretty unusual to be in a room with somebody who is nude or naked. It doesn't happen very often for most of us, except in some kind of a sexually charged situation. So I think we automatically look at things through that frame. But once you are there and you get drawing, sure, the first couple of minutes are going to be a little weird for you because it's not a situation that you're used to, but it's going to be really, really quick that you realize this is not that kind of a situation. Everybody is really focused on drawing. The model is really focused on posing. And that does take so much attention that there's really no room for any funny business. Tip number 4 is don't overthink what to draw. A lot of people get hung up on whether or not they should draw the face, the hands, the feet, the genitals, the entire figure, just part of the figure. And having all these decisions in your mind in a limited amount of time while you're watching the model puts a lot of pressure on the situation. And again, it takes your focus away from just observing. My recommendation is to try and make some of those decisions ahead of time. For example, I know that in a 1 minute pose, it is very unlikely that I'm going to get the entire figure from head to toe in there, and especially not in a way that I really like. So instead, I choose to focus most of the time on the torso in the really short poses. That way, I kind of have a rhythm. I know where I'm going to start. I know what I'm going to draw, unless something else looks more interesting at the time. And I don't have the pressure of getting the entire figure in. I can just focus on one section. So I make that decision ahead of time instead of every 1 minute pose deciding what I'm going to do. I also generally have the decision that I'm focused on the figure when I'm doing the figure drawing, and I don't necessarily need to include facial features, the head if I don't want to. Sometimes I choose to leave out the hands and the feet, or I keep a really simplified version of them because tackling faces, hands, feet, all that is pretty complicated and really its own study by itself. So if I'm going to do the face, usually I focus on the face and kind of hint at the rest of the figure. If I'm focused on the figure, I'll just hint at the face and the hands. That's mostly due to the amount of time. So try and think about that ahead of time and make those decisions. When it comes to whether or not you should draw genitalia, first of all, there is nothing inappropriate about drawing the model as you see them in front of you. So don't be afraid of it and don't avoid it necessarily. But at the same time, it's like any other part. So try not to overthink it. If you come to that area when you're drawing a pose, go ahead and draw it. And if you really don't get there or it doesn't seem incredibly interesting compared to the pose, don't be afraid to leave it out. Just don't overthink it. Don't put so much weight on the decision of if you're going to include genitals or not in your drawing. And tip number 5, I think this is probably the most important tip on here for artists at any level. And this is try not to think too much about what your drawing looks like. I know that sounds counterintuitive because who wants to spend all this time at life drawing sessions working on things and then not have anything that you want to show anybody at the end of it? But it's kind of like that is the trick to drawing. If you are thinking about what your drawing looks like, then your focus in your mind is on the drawing. And that's what you're paying attention to. And that has no good information for you. That means if you're focused on what your drawing looks like, the only information you're really able to utilize is the information already in your own head. And this is usually symbolic. Sometimes it's a little childish. And this is how our drawings end up looking, unsophisticated and not like what we saw. So the trick is to put aside what your drawing looks like, try not to think about it too much, and keep your focus and your mind on the model. You want to spend more time looking than you do drawing because that's where all the information is. And if you can slow down and you can look and notice relationships between different parts of the form, notice the angles that they appear to be going in, notice the curves that you see in their relationship to other curves on the other side of the body, that's going to give you all the information that you need to create the drawing. And naturally, your drawing is going to catch up and your drawing is going to start to look better. So that is really the key. You need to kind of let go of creating anything that you like. It's probably going to be a little while before you start getting drawings that you're happy with. So just try and focus on what you're noticing about the figure in front of you. Notice what it's like to look at them, what their shapes are like, and that's going to inform everything and eventually get those drawings that you're hoping to have. Now, if you'd like more help with this, I have 3 places I want you to check out. One is figuredrawingacademy.com. This is either going to lead to my Patreon, depending on when you're watching this video, or it's going to go to my full-on figure drawing course, which is currently in redevelopment. Or go to my Patreon, patreon.com/School of Realist Art. I have a whole lot of tutorials on here for you to watch on figure drawing. Plus, I have tons of references. You'll never run out. Third is check out this playlist that I have here on YouTube for figure drawing. Tons of information there that you can find, and you can see my approach to drawing the figure overall. Thanks a lot for watching. See you next time.